recognition, money, nice house, big car. I had all of that, but I was missing myself. I wasn't there. I was just running the life that many would aspire to, but it wasn't mine. My path as a seeker has not been in creating new beliefs, has been in removing old beliefs that I wasn't aware of.
What are the main beliefs you had to remove?
That life is external and you are conditioned by it and you have no choice. I felt a victim of life, and removing that belief has helped me see life as a projection of my belief system and as a mirror. What I see outside mirrors what I have inside, not the other way around. Keeping a piece of your mind attached to the power that you have enables you to believe more and more that you are the author of your life, not the product of an external life. I took some decisions that everything was going to change, that life was not going to be the same. I chose to
Do this. Thank you, Roberto, for being here, for inviting us in this wonderful place next to your house. I really love it, and
It's
I love
really
staying here with
pleasure, and I'm so glad that the environment has graced us with this beautiful sun, beautiful sunset, and this amazing day. Although we are nearly in the winter, but it still feels like spring.
you. Yeah, it does look amazing. Yeah. So, Roberto, you've been a mentor of mine, but for the people who doesn't know you, how would you define Roberto? Who is Roberto for you?
It's interesting because the word define contains the concept of being finite. So I don't tend to like definitions because I think they are constraining you to operate in something which is much smaller than you really are. But having said that, if I had to choose a word that somehow describes what I'm trying to do these days, is a seeker. A seeker of the truth, a seeker of who I am, what I am, and really trying to delve into the deep part of our being and finding the essence, the true essence, which distills something which in many cases is very different from what we are doing in our life, in our daily routine, but is the root of our experience as human beings in this world.
So our essence is who we are, our being is the essence of our experience as human beings.
It's the root. So I'm visualizing this image of a seed which has the essence of the entire plant, and when it goes into the ground, if it's fertile, then it will start with a sprouting, and then it starts growing into a tree. So it's that root that originates your experience, and the essence, I believe, originates our experience as human beings. But clearly, the environment around us has the influence on us, if we let it, to change our path. So sometimes I'm fascinated when you see these trees that are growing like this, and then all of a sudden they do this, and then they do that because there is a rock or there is another tree or something, and they still need to go vertical because that's their essence, it's their nature, but they're able to adapt. So sometimes we need to do this. But if you transform your essence too much, and you start going that way, then you know there's not going to be much future for you as a tree in this metaphor, or as a human being. If you go too far from your essence, very often the consequences are very tough on your health, and that's when I think illnesses start to rise in your body and then become something very serious, but also on your happiness, because maybe your body is healthy, but your emotions are not healthy. So trying to preserve the integrity of our being faithful and truthful to the root, to that seed, and to the way everything originates, I think is my mission in life. And I think as a seeker of the truth, I have discovered that the more I'm close to my root, to my origins, the happier I am.
And today, what would you say is your essence, and how did you find out? Because I guess you didn't know at the beginning of your journey, right?
I had some guesses. I had some feelings that were pointing me in the direction. And I think my essence is the same for everybody. So deep, 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 I think that the essence of human beings is love. I have no other way to describe it. Now, clearly, it's not romantic love. It's not love we experience in a couple relationship. It's also that. It's also the love you experience with your family, with your friends, but it's much, much bigger. What I call love, and sometimes you can call it light, is some principle that permeates life in the entire universe. And when we find that essence in our lives as human beings, we're able to become much more connected. Because love is the energy that attracts you to other things or experiences or people or beings, and that attraction creates a connection. And the opposite of love as an energy, as a force, is fear, because fear makes you go away, makes you run away from things that scare you. So when I'm infused with love, I will tend by nature to have a very strong attraction towards everything that surrounds me. Not just the things I like, but what is called unconditional love is called unconditional because it's not conditioned by the fact that you like it. Because to love what you like, it's easy. That's the basics. It's a starting level of a human being. Yes, everybody can love a little cat, everybody can love a sunny day, but then when things start becoming a bit tougher, then that love becomes fear, or becomes repulsion, or becomes aversion, and then you start to detach yourself, and then that love doesn't exist anymore. So unconditional love, I think, is a very deep experience that doesn't judge what you interact with from the perspective of I like it, I don't like it, but I just love it. Doesn't matter if I like it or not. I strive to have that feeling of love because I change my perspective from what is convenient to me to what is pleasurable to me, or what is useful to me, or what serves my purpose as a human being. It's very difficult to explain in words because sometimes I feel it's so strong, but then the words kind of escape because it's not logical. It's not logical to love something that you have a resistance towards.
It's hard to understand.
It's hard to understand, but when you start becoming that pure love, then everything changes and transforms the entire stage of life into a stage when you can experience that connection, that interconnection that we all have with each other. And then new dimensions open. And then when you start becoming telepathic, then you start thinking about somebody, that somebody calls you or appears, and then synchronicity appears.
Because through love you go beyond yourself and you're interconnected to everything.
Yes, and you change the I into the we. And it's very interesting because...
So love is not like a sense, like a taste. You know, I like this food, I don't like this food, I love this person, I don't like this person. It's more like a state, a way of being.
Totally. And if I have to pick some words, it's not a sentiment, it's not a feeling. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of mind, but deeper than mind, because mind is only a little portion of our consciousness. I think it's a state of consciousness. And consciousness is again a word that tries to capture something which is so infinite that you cannot lock it in a word. But consciousness is the ability to be, full stop. You cannot even put anything else beyond, you can't qualify. It's just a state of being. And that consciousness, the wider you expand it, the more you are connected to that feeling of we. You go beyond your body, your mind, your beliefs, and you start feeling that there is something much wider that connects all of us.
Okay. So normally when I talk about love, I talk about the sentiment, the feeling you had towards something or someone. You're talking about something else, about this consciousness.
Indeed. And that's why, as I said, sometimes love can also be seen as light. And light is a word that many traditions have used to describe something which is very similar to love, but it's probably easier to grasp. Because if you think about light, like the sun, which is there shining its light, the light goes everywhere. The sun doesn't choose, I only light the things that I like. Doesn't care. It's unconditional love. It's unconditional light. I just spread my light because that's my essence. And that light becomes a shadow or dark only if there is something in between. So that something in between is an opportunity to see the shape of the light, because otherwise if everything was light, there was nothing in between, then you wouldn't be able to see anything. It will be all flat. It will be all light everywhere. So the shadow gives form and shape to the light in the same way that unconditional love will be everywhere and you wouldn't notice anything else. You will be love. We are love. But why we experience things like fear or all the feelings that we have, all the emotions that we have, because there's something between us and the source. And the something is part of our condition as human beings, because we come here in this world to experience the shades of love, the shades of light, and see that there are different
you have to
perspectives.
experience all the different shades, you think?
Yeah,
in this
and
life.
if you think about colors, what we see as white light, in reality we know through science, and all it needs is a little piece of glass to act as a prism, and you can take a white light and spread it into the colors of the rainbow.
And you have all the colors.
Okay,
True.
so it's a combination of frequencies that all together become white. So what we see as white light, we see has no color, it's white. But in reality, within the color, there is all the colors. And it's a bit the same as love. Love is all the colors, all the emotions basically are made of that substance of the frequency that we see as love. But we want to know what is yellow. We want to know what is red, what is green. And therefore, we are here to experience all the different possibilities of coloring our lives, our experience, our consciousness with these different shades of colors, of intensity, of tonality. And I think our journey in the field of building a whole puzzle, a whole image, is to pick up different pieces of the puzzle. And then once we have all the colors, all the pieces of the puzzle, then an image appears, which I think is the image of, well, pure love, pure light, and some people call it God. Now, I don't use the word God because it's very often associated with religion, but it is the same, because all the religions have always indicated to an essence which is much bigger than all of us and has an intelligence, a wisdom that is everywhere. It's just a way to describe that essence. You can call it God, you can call it the universe, you can call it life, you can call it existence, but it's, I guess, the same that I call love or light.
I love this view. I think sometimes I experience it. I couldn't describe it, but I can feel what you're talking about. What I'm wondering is, when you go beyond yourself, you can experience this love, this interconnection. For example, when I meditate, I can go over myself and feel this interconnection.
Yeah.
But normally, in the vast majority of the time, I feel inside this body, this mind, and in that case, it's hard to feel this love, right? You feel somehow limited.
Limited, constrained, yes. Yeah. And that limit is called identification. What I mean by that, you identify yourself with that. So you forget that you are everything and you're connected with everything. And at this moment, if I want, I can feel the entire space around me, and I feel I'm part of it and I'm it. I am it. I am the sun. I am the sky. I am you. I am the entire surroundings. But if I want, I can start...
There's no limitation.
There's no limitation, but I can start feeling my hands. And now my hands are cold. I can feel my hands are cold, but a second ago I didn't feel my hands. So
True.
Where you put your consciousness and your awareness and your attention becomes the object of your experience. And I can now all of a sudden focus on my hands, and I can start feeling a feeling which is cold. And if I let my mind do his job, the mind will say, oh, you're cold. Your hands are cold. It's unpleasant. Start rubbing your hands and start taking some action, because this is not pleasant. But if I go beyond judging, pleasant, unpleasant, I just feel it's a wonderful vibration. I can feel an amazing vibration. And all of a sudden I can feel my hands hot, because hot and cold are very similar, are very close. So I can focus on something and I can start identifying with a feeling. And then if I'm becoming worried about it, oh, my hand is going to go frozen and I'm going to lose my hand, I'm going to be cut off. Then I start taking action, I start worrying. So all my experiences in life are determined by where I focus my attention. And it's a choice. The beauty of our human being is that we have free will. It's that ability to choose what to do with our experience and our consciousness.
Yeah, it's super interesting, but it requires an effort. I mean, most of the time, our focus as a standard level falls down to this body. So, I mean, we decide where to put the limit, the identification. I can identify in everything, in all around us, and we are one thing. I can identify it in us humans, and I put the limits there. But as a standard level, I think human beings normally have it on their own. And by their own, I mean my body and my mind. Why do you think there is this standard limitation taking place all the time?
The beauty is that there is no standard in reality. But
True.
If enough of us think that there is a standard, then we start being bound to the standard and we start becoming servants, slaves of the standard. So these standards are just collective thoughts that have a very powerful effect on us as individuals. Only if we give power to the collective thought to influence us. And to me, the biggest experience of a collective thought that I recently lived was the pandemic, the COVID. It was an amazing situation where millions of people started thinking the same thought. The same thought that you could become ill, that you could die, that you had to wear a mask, that you couldn't go outside your house. It was a collective thought. And clearly there was also conditions outside that will force you to abide to the collective thought. There will be police, they will give you a fine if you went out your home in certain times and all of that. So everything became very constrained by collective thought. But for instance, I experienced a situation where I was living in a house in the mountains and I was 100 meters to a big wood and I could go wherever I wanted. So to me, COVID didn't exist. I didn't experience that COVID just because I was far enough from the collective thought and I wasn't captured by the collective thought. So I experienced no fear, no worries, no palpitations that many experience because they were in different circumstances. And it was a matter of, if you want, luck, which doesn't exist. Luck is only a choice we don't remember or we are not aware of, but we choose everything we live in our life. Our power of free will captures everything happens to us, even the bad things. And sometimes many people reject that idea because they say, no, I didn't choose that father that beat me up, or I didn't choose to be born in a body that is handicapped. I didn't choose all those things because I'm negative and I don't want them. So how could I choose something which I don't like? And at the human level of the mind, that is true. But if you go outside your mind and see the bigger intelligence that you have when you decide to come on earth as a human being, all of those choices, in my view, which is my view, it may not be the view of everybody, but many traditions have shared this view, which is we choose where to get born, in which family, in which country, on which body, and all of those choices, which we then forget, become the path that we follow. And we continue to make choices every minute, every second. I now chose to be here in a beautiful setting, and this is very enjoyable. But yeah, my hands are cold. And do I worry about my hands? No, I don't care, because I have chosen to put my attention somewhere else. So that's what I mean by free will, by choice, and by power that we have to select into the infinite range of experience that we can experience, all the infinite range of emotions that are available to us every second. I can select which experience to feel, which emotions to embody. Sometimes that power feels constrained by circumstances, but I always have an ability to decide how I respond to circumstances. And that's very important, because that's the essence of a conscious life. You're no longer influenced by the external. You nurture your internal state, and through that nurturing your internal state, you have an impact on the world outside you. But that requires a lot of training because we're not used to that. And we, as you said, normally as human beings, we feel ruled by the body, by the circumstances, by what happens to us, by who we meet. And that power we give to external takes away our power that we have internally.
And what is the kind of training you do in order to focus on that power internal that we all have?
I think the biggest training has been meditation. Meditation is carving out a space where you say, okay, no more external world. And you start by doing a very simple action. Close your eyes. Just that action has an amazing impact because you remove the strongest sense that is linked to our mind. Our eyes see and we control what we see. If we see a danger, we see it and therefore we take action. Now, there are very trained martial arts experts that with something on their eyes, so they are totally blindfolded, they can feel an attack because we have other senses apart from the sight, but we are used to give so much power to our sight that everything is through our sight. So just by shutting our eyes, we change the state of mind. The consciousness changes. And then because you have carved out the environment that you see, then you start feeling what's around you. Your mind starts traveling in the past, in the future, or what I'm feeling. And a lot of things happen. And initially, I experienced a lot of frustration with meditation because I was expecting an outcome which was peace of mind, bliss, and all of these expectations of meditation. And then I wasn't experiencing any of that. I was very restless, very nervous. And it is a bit of time.
Control the meditation.
Yes.
You wanted to control.
You want to control because you have an expectation of an outcome. I want to feel blessed. I want to feel the bliss of being connected with the whole world.
So you're not actually meditating.
You're not actually meditating. You are forcing a meditation through will, which is very important because we have our free will. So we need to direct our will towards an objective. But there is another powerful ingredient, which is letting go, surrender. So meditation is a state of mind which happens at the juncture, at the untouchable point. I say untouchable because there is no connection between surrendering and will. They seem like opposite. If I surrender, I have no will.
True.
If I have will, I have no surrender. But there is a contact point. In that contact point is where meditation happens. And it's very difficult to explain because until you experience it, you cannot explain. I cannot explain to you if you haven't tasted a pineapple what a pineapple tastes like. I can describe it. It's sweet. I can give you some circumstances, but the only way you know how a pineapple tastes is by tasting it.
Eating, yeah.
The same with meditation. I can give you some tools, and there is a lot of training courses about how to meditate, which is like how to teach an infant to breathe. An infant knows how to breathe. You don't need to teach somebody how to breathe. With meditation, because we forgot, somehow we need to train through some techniques of letting go of all the blockages to meditation. All you need to do is remove the obstacles, and then the flower of meditation just blossoms and comes out naturally. It's just something we know from where we're born, and we always know how to meditate, but we need to allow it to blossom.
Why do you think we forget if it's so important?
Because our education system, our society, and I talk about Western society, it's very different in India. For instance, if you're born in India, then it's much easier for you to meditate. Now, in our Western culture, we are educated in such a way that we need to exert our will to obtain what we want. It's a bit like the American dream, if you want, which is you can dream of anything and you can obtain it, has become a little bit of an exception and has come also here to Europe. And we think that it's so important to achieve something in the material world that we forget about the spiritual world or the consciousness world. Just nothing to do with religion, but it's just something that beyond beliefs, beyond religions, beyond what you call God or not God, there is something which all human beings have this essence, has this very thin part of our system, which are untouchable, invisible, but very present. And therefore we concentrate on our body, on our matter, on our home, on our car, on materials, on money, and all of that has become a big distraction. Has created a certain state of well-being from one perspective.
It is a distraction from
being.
From being.
Because to be able to enjoy those things, you need to do a lot of things. You need to work, you need to go active and search these things, you need to buy those things, and those things are things you have, you possess things. But if you have, and if you do, you cannot concentrate on just being. Because being, you can be, a baby can be. A baby doesn't know what money is, doesn't have anything, but is just focused on being. Mm-hmm. And in adults, we have forgotten a lot about beings, and that's going back to the question about what you can do to get in touch, and that's why I said meditation is an important starting point, an important pillar, because meditation connects you with the state of being. You're not doing anything. When people say, I need to do meditation, yes, okay, maybe it's an expression, but you don't do meditation, you are meditation.
I totally agree with you that meditation definitely helps us get in touch with who we truly are, which is beyond the body, the mind, but the true being. And it's wonderful because you do feel that love when you're meditating. You know that often I ask myself this question, should I just meditate and feel this being, this consciousness, or I should also have an adventure with this body and this mind. Like, I feel a contrast between these two things. So on one side, I can experience all the love and I can experience myself, the universe, when I'm meditating. But on the other side, I feel like I'm not always in this state. Most of the time, because of the limitation of my mind, I'm in this body, this mind, I'm Carlos, and I'm also doing something, right? So for me, it's very hard to find a balance between these two things.
And the beautiful thing is that there is no right or wrong. And it's not that, I understand that you feel a contrast, but the contrast is in your mind. It doesn't exist. Why you feel it? Because you feel a tension, which is created by fear, anxiety, something which is in you, which is not love. If you were pure love, you will not feel a separation between the two states, because one is within the other.
You should always be in love.
If you're purely in love, you can choose and experience keeping the state of consciousness of an expanded consciousness. You can do that. That's achievable. I haven't been able to achieve it and sustain it, but I know that some enlightened people can, and we know some figures, Christ, Buddha, Muhammad. So there are, in the history of humanity, in certain traditions, in certain religions, figures that are humans that had a divine state. And I believe that that's not only those people that we all know about in religions, but maybe there is a cleaner down the road who is sweeping with his broom and is in that state of mind. So never judge the others by their appearance, because maybe there is a Buddha up there who's cleaning the street. We don't know. It's internal. That state is totally internal. It's not visible from the outside. So you could be a billionaire, or you could be a humble guy, maybe doing agriculture, and both of them could be enlightened. So never judge from the outside, because it's something totally within you. It's totally internal. Now, the reason why the state of bliss is not sustained is because we have free will. And again, I come to this very important concept, because free will is describing the ability that we have to select which experience to experience, where to put our focus of attention, and we are able to choose whether to be in love, in a condition of bliss, or whether to be in the matter, in material world, and experience other feelings. And that is important, because we're here also to achieve that. So one doesn't exclude the other. The way to make them touch, a bit like I said, surrender and will seem to be incompatible one with another, but have a touch point. I think the same happens with our condition. We can be divine in our essence, in pure consciousness, or we can be totally human in our drama of daily life where things go wrong. And these have a touch point. A touch point is our consciousness, is our ability to be there in the present, feeling what I'm feeling. And as I said, it's not that I don't feel my hands are cold, but I choose not to be conditioned by my hands and are cold. And I can feel both. I can feel my hands are hot, my hands, I don't have hands, because sometimes I feel like they don't exist. Or I can focus on feeling the feeling of cold, and it's a choice that we have. The truth is that we are free to choose. But the condition that we have from our society, from our education, is that we are not free to choose. We are chosen by the environment that forces upon us a choice. And that's why human misery occurs. Human misery is no other than feeling that you're not free and something outside you is constraining you to do something that you don't want. That's human misery. And we experience it. But it's not our condition.
And why would you say some people are able to choose and some people are not? Or some people can easily understand this and make good choices for themselves, and some people take more time, or they die and they never do?
Well, that's where a whole chapter that we could talk for like hours, which is called karma and dharma. And those are two concepts, two words that have been used to describe a certain number of laws that apparently run our existence. One of them is the law of cause and effect. And if you plant a cause into your life, at some stage that cause will create an effect. And maybe there is a distance between these two, which is called time. So maybe now I'm experiencing something which is the result of something, of a cause I planted many, many years ago. Or if you believe in reincarnation, many, many lives ago. Now, I believe that time is an idea, is a concept that the human mind has created because it's incapable of thinking that there is only one time, which is now. And therefore we have created the idea that there is a past and a future and that there is different lives and that there is different dimensions. I think
And why did we create it?
because our mind is incapable of feeling the infinity that we are. And therefore, because it's not able to sustain the connection and wants also, it's a desire. We are here to experience, as I said, the finitude of our constraint in a human body, which is very fragile. And, if I cut myself, I can lose a finger. So there are a number of laws which are very dense. When you do something, you cannot go back. Now, in the spirit, everything is much more flexible, is much more quick, and you can do and undo. Everything is reversible in the subtle world. For instance, in a dream, which is a subtle word, is a reality but has a different feeling. But when you dream, it feels like a total reality like this one. In a dream, you can do the impossible. But when you choose to be bound by the laws of what we call physics, rules, laws, all of this is conditioning. Again, back to this collective thought. We all think that if I pick up a stone and I drop it, it will fall. And that belief is so shared by everybody that it always happens.
It falls because of the belief, not because of gravity, you would say.
Gravity is a belief. And this requires a very expanded view of the world.
So if tomorrow everyone doesn't believe gravity exists, the stone would not fall?
Possibly. Because to me, love is the space of infinite possibility. Everything is possible in a state of love. Anything. There is no limits. And in a way, when you feel romantic love, we all experience that.
Yeah, there are no
when
limits.
When you're in love with somebody, there is no limits, right? You do the unimaginable, unimaginable.
You do all kind of experience. You find the time to meet this person. If they're far, you go.
You stay awake until 4 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
Not a single cell of your body is tired. You have excitement. You feel life through your whole system. And that is romantic love. Think about unconditional love. How much more powerful, because romantic love is a little drop in the ocean of unconditional love. So that power is infinite. And I truly believe that if enough human beings would concentrate on the idea that the stone will not fall, the stone will not fall.
And they truly believe it.
And they truly believe it.
They don't just say it, but they actually believe it.
They actually believe it. And in small circumstances, I've seen that in my life. I've experienced little miracles that are very personal, very something that I couldn't believe it possible. It became possible.
Because of a strong belief in making that things happen.
Yeah. Or a removal of a strong belief, because most of our beliefs are there without even knowing. So my path as a seeker has not been in creating new beliefs, has been in removing old beliefs that I wasn't aware of.
What are the main beliefs you would say you had to remove in order to be a seeker?
The biggest one is the belief that life is external and life has a mind of its own and you are conditioned by it and you have no choice. That was my strongest belief that was inhibiting my power.
So you believed you had no choice in life?
Yeah, it was a strong belief that I had no choice. Things happened for a reason and I have no control over the reason. I couldn't influence time, events, and therefore I felt a victim of life. And removing that belief, which took a long time, has helped me see life as a projection of my belief system and as a mirror. What I see outside mirrors what I have inside, not the other way around. We are used to be governed by the state around us, and our emotions are determined by the state around us. So if we meet somebody who we like, we're happy. If we meet somebody we don't like, we're unhappy. Okay? It's external. Yeah. My state of mind now is I want to experience a state of happiness, so I meet people I like. And when you start believing in this, the quality of the friends I have around me and the people I Like you know, I met you by coincidences, and now we're here in a place, beautiful place, with a sunset happening right now in
Wow.
front of us, which is amazing. I wish the camera could capture that for a second. But you know, that's our choice. We created this. Nobody else.
We created this.
We
Yeah.
created this.
It's a
And
choice.
keeping a piece of your mind attached to the power that you have enables you to believe more and more that you are the author of your life, not the product of an external life.
In all circumstances.
If you are in unconditional love, I believe in all
Because you go
circumstances.
beyond yourself and everything.
You go, everything is possible, no limits. Now, clearly, I haven't reached a state of consciousness, and I'm still run by the law of physics and by the law of the government I live in, although I don't abide to all of them. Like lighting a fire probably here was not technically lawful, but I done it in a circumstance that I know that this was not a danger because I put stones around it. So we have a responsibility to our environment, and we have to do things carefully, with presence, thinking. We have a mind, and many people want to fight the mind. The mind is a beautiful instrument. We just need to govern it and to use it for something which is in line with our essence. Then it becomes fruitful. If you let your mind run you, and you need to do this, you need to do that because you have to, we are in a state of must. You must do this. When we forget our state of I can, I want, I wish, all of that very often in our life is forgotten.
Yeah, I believe whenever you say I would, could, should, must, yeah, probably it's an alarm that something is not aligned. Like your doing is not aligned with your being. It takes a lot of courage being able to say no to that should, could, or would and follow what you feel, what you want.
Courage is an interesting word because in Italian, coraggio very clearly points to the root of the word, which is cor, cuore, is heart. Basically, courage means act with your heart, act with love, act with not
with love.
necessarily your mind that tells you what is right or what is wrong, but what you feel is right or wrong, or good for you or not good for you, or in line with your essence. Because again, we're trying to move away from the state of mind where there is something right or wrong, good or bad, but there is something which is natural, something which is in line with your essence. And there is a beautiful expression that Rumi, a poet and mystic from the 12th century, and he said a very simple sentence, which is, much beyond any definition of wrongdoing or right doing, there is a field. And it is in that field that I will meet you. And that meeting is a meeting with your consciousness. So there is a field out there where there is no right or wrong, where there is no condition, when there is no path to choose between left and right, which is our dual mind. Duality is born by our mind, which classifies everything into these conditions. But there is a field out there where that doesn't apply, which is the field of consciousness. And there is unity and everything. We are one in that, so there is no choice. There is no more right or left. There is only being there.
One thing. Yeah. I really like this interpretation of courage. And when would you say were the times in your life that you had to have the most courage?
Yeah, those are the moments where you know, and I knew it when I took some decisions, that everything was going to change, that life was not going to be the same. And I just felt it. One of them was when I chose to fall in love with the woman knowing that she had cancer. And not only it was a tough choice, but she forced me to take the choice by saying, look, I have cancer. You have an opportunity to run, but do it now. Don't let me fall in love with you because it will be breaking my heart. So it was very tough from her. And I had to face that choice initially with my mind to say, what do I do, what do I do? And then there was something that totally, you know, like when you take a desk and you just do this and you throw everything on the floor and say, I don't want a clean desk, I don't care about anything. And that's what my heart did. It just cleaned the desk and said, you have no choice. And your choice is only one. It's a bit like, Henry Ford when he was saying, you can have any color of the car you want as long as it's black. Well, that was pretty much the options that my heart gave me. There's only one option. Go for it. But clearly, it took a lot of courage to say yes to my heart. And that decision over the next 2 years generated an amount of grief and sorrow for everything that happened until the moment when the woman died, which was very tough. But all of that strain on events that started from the decision transformed my life, and I say saved my life. So through that death, I was able to basically get a new life and be reborn. Clearly, that's a reinterpretation of those years, and 9 years have passed. So there was something which time has helped me rationalize all of that. But I think it was the start of my journey, that choice that the woman asked me to take, and I took out of a pure act of courage.
And today you love that choice.
And I love the choice. I wouldn't go back, and I thank the choice. I thank Chiara from coming into my life. I thank everything that happened, her sacrifice of a life to allow things to happen in my life and in her new dimensions, in her new life. And then from that moment, a lot of other choices like leaving my job, choosing to fall in love again, which was very tough for me because I thought I was always grateful to Chiara and there would be no other woman in my life. Instead, I had the luck to fall in love again, and I allowed that to happen. So there are a number of choices that then roll into one another and become like a snowball effect. The more you believe that those choices at the moment feel like totally irrational, totally sometimes stupid. And everybody around me was saying, don't do this, don't do this, you know. Sometimes your best friends...
But they were guided through the mind, probably.
Exactly. Sometimes your best friends are your worst enemies because they think they're trying to help you, but in reality they move you away from your heart and from your courage. And they take away some of the courage, and then sometimes you give in to advice from your friends and family. And that was irremovable. I would not go away. My mom tried to convince me that was not a wise choice, my friends, but it was inflexible.
Probably because they were not considering the choice and what would have happened, but they were already thinking about the fear of suffering that choice would have brought, which it brought suffering indeed also.
It did, absolutely. And that's why I said, at the beginning, very often we have that path which goes into a fork, and is love, and the other side is fear. So very often fear is what moves people to do certain actions.
Why do you think we're mainly moved by fear? Because if in love we find everything. And I do believe that, this is something I say, when we make a decision out of love, and it's pure love, then the consequences are going to be better than anything you could have expected. Whether you understand it now, you will eventually understand it. But even though this is how it works, some people take decisions based on fear. Why do you think we take decisions on fear? Most of the time, and we don't realize it.
Yeah, it's frankly inexplicable. I cannot explain it because basically that every time you choose from fear, the circumstances go worse than you expect. So it's never wise to choose by fear because eventually it will generate more suffering and more stress or strain and everything. So the question is very right. Why do you keep insisting in doing something that will generate more problems for you than benefits?
If I think... No, sorry for the interruption. I was just thinking out loud. If I think about my experience, every time I took a decision based on fear, which was in order to match someone else's expectation, and not my own expectation, then the result wasn't the best result, of course.
Yeah. And it's exactly that. It is deep within that fear. I would say almost always, or maybe always, there is indeed a quest for love. So for instance, if I take a decision because I fear to become alone, what I really want is to be loved by someone. So maybe I don't take a decision because I have fear of being alone, or I have a fear of losing the recognition of some people. So most of the times, if you go into the fear, there is a quest for love. Even the ultimate fear, the fear of life. So why do we fear to lose our life? Because we love life. So fear and love are the same energy, two sides of the same coin. is plus and minus. And when they come in contact with each other, there is cancellation of both. But fear is not something which exists, it's just absence of love. The same way that dark doesn't exist as an entity. And darkness is only absence of light. And if you have two rooms, one full of light and one completely dark, and you open the door between the two, darkness never comes out. It's always light, that goes in. So darkness is absence of light, the same as fear is absence of love. Very often it's very difficult to find the threads of life, but I can see, an image of, if you want to call it God, it's like a big puppeteer that has strings attached to everything. And, I don't think he's a puppeteer with his own will. He's only a series of threads and links that connect things. So if there is the expression, if a butterfly flaps his wing, on the other side of the ocean there will be a hurricane, because the ripple effect of that butterfly just moving a little bit of air eventually can build up a hurricane. And I do believe this effect of building up truly exists, that if I throw a cigarette, well, I shouldn't smoke it to start with, but if I smoke and I throw a cigarette on the floor, like most people do, they think it's nothing. Somebody will come and collect it. But if I see the fact that little action has on a wider scale, that is just being careless. It's just not loving your environment, seeing that your environment is separated from you. So there is always a connection between an act, even a small act has an effect. And being able to see all those threads, all those links, and being able to see this big puppeteer that connects everything and make happen things in your life because of something else that has happened in this dimension, in a different dimension, in time, in whatever it is, I can see this big wheel of fortune that sometimes we refer to as life.
But it's just karma.
It is karma. And the other side of karma, again, is a coin with two sides. There is karma and there is dharma. And to me, karma is the path of fear and dharma is the path of love. And if you see those as a simple path, you can transform karma into dharma like that. So I don't believe that we are sentenced to a bad life because of karma. To me, that's rubbish, Yes, you have a karma, and then the heavier your karma is, the tougher your choice of choosing love becomes, because you will probably be struggling with so many survival things in your life, like if you're born with an illness, or if you have no money, no instructions in a family that doesn't allow you to study and build things in your life, then you will be always the survival stage. And there are many, many millions of people in this world fighting for survival, and that's karma. But even the poorest person in the world could, in a state of consciousness, when he realizes the bigger picture, become enlightened and cancel instantly his karma and becomes connected to dharma. And that's available to anybody, in my view, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the conditions. Clearly it will be much more difficult now. I had the luxury of spending much time reading, studying, staying with people with high consciousness, and the people around you have an influence on your state of mind and state of consciousness. So I had the luxury to do that because of everything I've done in the previous years of my life. And some people don't have the luxury. But again, I repeat, I think anybody has access to Dharma in an instant through an act of love.
But if all good and bad is just a definition made by our mind and it does not exist in reality, then why does karma exist?
Wow.
So I'm in a worse scenario than yours, for example, because I did something bad in my past life. But bad is a categorization of the mind. So
yeah. Again, ultimately, it's a bit like, the Matryoshka, where you have a doll and you open it, there is another doll inside, and you open it, there's another doll inside, and you can go on forever. Or maybe easier to see as an infinite reflection is when you put simply two mirrors in front of each other and you go in the middle and you look at one and you see your image reflected infinite times. And you will carry on reflecting and you will see the infinite in a real world. You can experience infinite in a real world. So it's a game And I call it a game instead of a job, a task, a work, because I think we are here to experience in a light way, in a fun way, in a loving way, something which is created by the decision of our consciousness to experience reality in a different dimension. Because as I said at the beginning, if everything is light and light is everywhere, you don't see anything. You are light. There is no other difference from you. So there is only one thing, and you are that. Okay, it's boring. So
It's
sometimes
boring,
I think as the Big Bang or the act of creation of life as, I'm bored, let's do something interesting. And so what do? You create duality, and you create bad and evil, right and wrong. Oh, wow, there is something to play.
Yeah, probably deep down in ourselves, we know we are light, and that's it. But as it's already a game over, we are playing this game now.
Absolutely.
So Roberto, going back to what you said before, so the most courageous choice you've ever made in your life was deciding to marry Chiara, and from that moment your life completely changed. So you had a new birth, let's say. I'm very, very curious to understand what was your life before meeting Chiara. I know you, and it's interesting because your first life and the second life is kind of a mirror in some senses, but like opposite mirrors. This part of your life is the perfect life to who you truly are, and there is perfect love. And while in the first part of your life, probably there was missing love, but on an external point of view, maybe it was a perfect life.
Sure.
So for example, when I was studying at university, everybody dreamed to become a director, be a high profile in a company, and you had all of that. So you were a director in consulting, in companies, in private equity, and yeah, you were managing a lot of people, you were working a lot, traveling here and there. So like from an external point of view, you had a perfect life,
Sure.
but it wasn't a perfect life, I
And-
guess. Can you tell us more about that life?
Yeah, it's very interesting because you are creating this this contrast, right, between two different dimensions, and in each dimension, each life has its pros and cons, has its advantages and disadvantages, and clearly, if you choose a life based on material matters, which means fame, recognition, money, a good job, a nice house, big car, nice woman next to me, I had all of that, and I'm very lucky to have experienced that materiality because I can see now around me many people who strive for spiritual, become seeker like me, but have not experienced material world, and they always struggle with materiality. They always struggle to understand how I can get to the end of the month without having to take compromises, and it's a struggle. So I can say that I have experienced the material side and have enjoyed it, and then these circumstances, and to me the turning point was the meeting of Chiara, but that was only the turning point in the material world. But why did I reach that point of being able to meet the woman? Because everything I had before was no longer sustainable to me. So all of a sudden I found myself too stressed at work. Situations at work become very hard to bear. I turned grey in 6 months because of stress, because of having to work very late, because everything apparently was going wrong. My relationship of 12 years with a wonderful woman was failing. I was far away from home. I was in another country. I was in England, traveling all over the world, jet setting. Apparently it was a very full life, but I was missing myself. I wasn't there. I was just running the life that many would aspire to, but it wasn't mine. When I found that I was missing myself so much, and the only way to reconnect myself with myself was taking a holiday in nature. And then all of a sudden, all I had to do, I didn't have to be a big holiday traveling. I was spending all my time in my holidays traveling to foreign countries and doing amazing journeys and travels. But I could be connected with myself just going to Hyde Park in London and climbing a tree. And literally I was doing that for a period of time. And I was telling you the story of how I met Jacopo, who connected us two. And that contact with nature was enough to put me in touch with my essence, with my true nature. And I could start at a certain point feeling my whole life creaking. And normally we build life as a chair on 4 legs: health, home, physical home, work, and relationship, family. Okay, we have these 4 pillars. And apart from health, that luckily I had no problems with, but the other three were totally destroyed. And even health, I wasn't experiencing a problem with my health. But through Chiara, we were basically experiencing the biggest problem of health you can have, which is tumor cancer, to the extent that her health, her life was taken away. So I experienced indirectly also that pillar failing. So I lost my job. Well, I chose to quit my job. I decided to change country. I was living in London and I moved away from the UK. I had no more family. Yes, I had the biological family, but not a family I chose. I had no longer the woman I chose to marry, and she was died. We have no kids. So I had nothing. Everything was tabula rasa. So what happens when you're in this chair and you cut the forelegs? You collapse.
It fell. The chair fell.
When you collapse, when you are collapsing, for a fraction of a second, you experience flying.
Mm.
And that's when it happens, you are so frightened that you didn't think about it. But something happens in you during that fall, which is very often, it's amazing because I experience waking up from a dream through the falling. And when I watched the movie Inception, I was saying, gosh, it's not just me, because in Inception, I don't know if you've seen the movie, but during Inception, the way to pull people out of a dream is through making them fall. So
So the same happened to you.
that experience of falling wakes me up from a dream, and literally when this metaphor of the chair with four legs being cut off and you fall wakes you up. A crisis that happened in my material life was only there to make me wake up from a dream that wasn't my life. It was a dream. It was a dream life, but it wasn't mine, right? So that reconnected me to something which was more important, and I cannot say I have the perfect life now. I'm still a seeker. So a seeker knows that perfection is not a destination, it's the journey. So perfection is the ability to find the perfect time in the now. And to me, this is perfection right now. I can hear the silence around me. I can see a beautiful sunset. I'm surrounded by you two guys who are beautiful, Carlos and Francesca. And to me, this is perfect.
It's perfect. It is. There's everything. Yeah.
And I can just breathe it in. And to me, that's much more important than having a jet, having a hotel chain. Like some people strive for that and see that life in materiality as being the ultimate way to be happy. And maybe for them it is. The beauty of unconditional love is that anything is possible. And maybe for a millionaire, it's right to be a millionaire. We are not here to judge against our limited view of what we think is right or wrong, but from the view of what has that essence chosen to come here for. And if that essence is true, and the life they chose is truthful to what their call is to be here, perfect. Then we are not here to judge.
Wow. Wow. I appreciate it, because many times what happens is that when you have a kind of a lifestyle and you change and you pursue a new kind of a lifestyle, then you start like saying, that life was bad for me, and then you look at the other people and you think, oh, it's bad also for them.
Correct.
While there should be no
judgment. Yeah.
No judgment.
And this was one of the toughest lessons that life has taught me. When I became aware of a number of things, I started to influence my friends, and that happened naturally. And also many friends changed. So some friends left and new friends came. But then I wanted also to bring it to my family, and especially my mother, who is the only survivor of my ancestors. From my family tree up, is the only one. And I was seeing that she was not seeking her truth, from my perspective, because, for instance, she was complaining about things. And we know that elderly people tend to complain a lot. From my perspective, complaint is like spitting in a dish that life serves you. Say, it gives you a beautiful dish, here you go, and you spit on it. That's crazy. So complaint to me is a toxic manifestation of not love. You're not loving what life is giving you, you spit on it. But I was trying to influence her, and she would not listen to me, but even worse, she would start feeling my pressure on her. She was starting feeling wrong, and that I didn't love her, and that I didn't appreciate her. And this became a big mountain of misunderstandings, of not understanding each other, that eventually almost led to us breaking up and saying, let's not talk to each other anymore. And then I had the realization that I was not loving her. And that was why everything was going wrong. I was not accepting the fact that maybe complaining is her call. And maybe her nature, true nature, is to be here to complain. And my ability to love somebody who is complaining all the time is that ability to develop unconditional love. I don't know whether that's really what happened.
Yeah, you were trying to help her with an act of love, I guess, but the result wasn't love. So you realized you were not loving at the end.
Correct. And when I switched that and I started saying, look, you want to complain? Fine, complain. I will not fuel your complaint, so I will not start complaining myself, but definitely I will not complain about the fact you are complaining, because sometimes you become circular, right? You judge your judgment, you're afraid of your fear, and it becomes circular, and you stop that and say, well, ultimately, what do I want? Love. So I just decided to love her.
Why do we often compare like our life with the life of other people?
Yeah, it's another of those miracles or mysteries that I don't know why we let them happen. I think it's again through conditioning. And if you think about our recent life, social media has become pervasive in our lives. And what does social media do? It shows you the best of others, because you will not put things you're not proud of or things you are ashamed of. You only put the good things, right? Some people are true. Some people put everything. And because you see so much glitter around you, everybody shining and glittering, then you say, well, how can I get that? Again, you're not true to yourself.
Conscious programming that you're receiving all the time, day after day.
It's conditioning. It's conditioning from the circumstances. And then, if you think about the mass media, have done that consciously, continuously. Advertising is just that. Advertising sells you the emotion that you will feel if you get the product, if you use that service. Okay? Advertising does that. Doesn't sell you the product. It sells you the emotion that you will feel through the product. It's only that. And emotions are the essence. We don't do things because of anything else but emotions. Emotions are the drivers. It's the driving force of our life. But we are not our emotions. We feel emotions, but we are not the emotions. And Inside Out to me is a mystical film because it puts into character your emotions. And many movies are doors that open up on the state of consciousness that some people have achieved. And I'm sure that many directors, many writers do see what reality is beyond illusion and create films that are the ultimate form of illusion to break the illusion. And that's very,
it's incredible.
Ironical, because you think, well, how can a film teach me something through illusion? But sometimes they do if we listen to them.
And Roberto, as now the sunset is going down and the cold is going up, so we don't know for how long we will keep recording, but something I really wish to ask you is, you've been able to face your life and deciding to have a more authentic life. You had the courage to do it. What is ultimately your advice for the people listening to have a more authentic life?
Well, it's interesting because you remind me of a sentence that only a few days ago came up spontaneously. I was talking to a friend and this sentence just came up. And it came up in Italian. So I said it in Italian first and then I translated. Il coraggio non è un atto, ma un'attitudine. So courage is not an act, it's an attitude. And the difference between these two words, and these only words, and we're only playing with words, but to me it was like in that moment I had an expansion of consciousness, because I realized that we don't just act. Because we only live in the present, past and future are nothing else than just stringing pieces of presence together. And an attitude is the ability to keep that state alive. So courage is not something I do, I'm courageous now, I take a choice and then I forget about
It's not an act, it's
courage.
not a decision, it's who
It's
I
an
am.
attitude. You live that decision, because taking a decision is easy. Courage is not taking a decision. courage becomes really alive when you sustain the decision. Because there is no right or wrong decision, and that's very important. We spend a lot of time thinking about the decision because we want to take the right decision. And in reality, it doesn't matter which decision you take. What it does matter is once you've taken a decision, you sustain it, you support it, you love it. And then you don't look back, oh, I could have gone right, but I went left. Oh my God, I should have. And you put all your energy in the decision you haven't taken. I've gone left, left is where I am. And you live left and you forget about right. So an attitude becomes important because it sustains and it prolongs that state of consciousness that you had in that particular moment, and it drags you and it sews together all the pieces of now into a life. And I believe that at the moment of when you die, all your life runs through you. And then if you have enough pieces of that attitude together, that becomes a good life. That becomes a life, and maybe it's the last life you need to come to do all the experience, because you have chosen constantly love through that attitude of listen to your heart, listen to your truth, listen to your essence.
And taking a courageous decision related to that feeling.
Correct. And sustaining it.
And sustaining, yeah. Wow. Roberto, the sunset is going down, and here it's also the sunset of our conversation, but
Beautiful.
as this beautiful sunset, I think we also had a beautiful conversation. So thank you very much to opening yourself up and sharing with us your experiences, your knowledge and your feeling, and sharing love. This is the most important thing.
Thank you for making this happen, because I had no idea how the conversation would go and how this amazing setting would influence my words and my thoughts. But to me, that is love, the space of infinite possibility when the impossible happens and when I say things I don't know what they mean, and we are here celebrating life in this amazing place. And I think you should take the camera and at least do a pan out, because it's so beautiful.
Yes,
that
let's
the viewers
do it.
deserve to see it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.